So, guys, I always love when Kirk Cousins has something to say about anything because I think he's just so animated. One thing about him, even in his animated way of kind of speaking out and sometimes being lighthearted, he's still going to keep it real and he's going to be who he is. Maria, he talked about perception versus reality post practice Wednesday and essentially said he doesn't really care about how you perceive him. So, what are some of the things that you feel when you look at him? Really, it's more of a reality of what we see him say, but also how we've seen him perform so far in these first couple of weeks of camp, especially seeing what, in my opinion, is a much faster progression on offense this season versus the last couple.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of perceptions around the Falcons right now, specifically
Yeah.
Kirk and the offense. First of all, a lot of people who are fans of the Falcons really think that this offense could be something explosive. It could be something very special. Now, there are
Mhm.
outside perceptions that Kirk is not that healthy, that Kirk doesn't look that great in training camp. I've heard that. Well, I've watched this quarterback multiple times throughout training camp, and I would vehemently disagree with that. I think he looks good. I think some of these like limping moves that people are talking about, that's just a part of your Achilles healing. I mean, he's fine. He feels physical. He feels fast. He even said he took off on a 2-minute drill the other day, and he's never seen an opposing sideline, which would be his defensive teammates in this case, cheer as loud as they did in that moment. So, Kirk, I think, for me, perception of Kirk is my reality. My perception of him heading into him being a Falcon was that he would be a leader, was that he would be good on offense, was that he would be consistent. He's been all those things. And for me, he's elevating everyone around him. And that's my biggest thing with Kirk. And he's always going to tell you the truth. I know he doesn't care about what people think, which is a good thing. He shouldn't have to. He's played in the NFL for forever now. He's in his 13th season. But for me, I think my perception and reality are one and the same. I am on the same page of that too. And I think that everyone's perception of this offense being explosive, or Kyle having his best year, or Drake unlocking another level in year 3, all of those things are going to become a reality because Kirk Cousins is there. So whether he cares or not, I think that people do.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you said leadership because when I think about the progression, Jarvis, of this offense, I actually think about the progression of this team overall. I see in him a leader, and again, not to kind of knock Desmond Ritter for lack of a better term, but I felt like yes, Des did have some command of the offense. I felt like, yes, he was the leader of the offense, but I can't tell you that I felt like he was the leader of the team the way maybe I felt that when Matt Ryan was here, even though the team had Grady Jarrett at that time. And obviously he's the heart and soul of the defense. But I think there's a difference. There's a marked difference when Kirk Cousins steps into the building, when he steps on the field. I feel like he commands the entirety of the roster. And I think that we're starting to see every player understand whether you are on this side of the 11 on 11 or this side of the 11 on 11 or 7 on 7. He is expecting everybody to bring their A game every single time. So that was my perception of what he was going to be before he got here. But now it's like we're starting to see the reality of it because, to his point, a defense isn't cheering if you're not doing something that's awe-inspiring for them. And now they're out there saying, "Oh, okay, well, you put it out there, you put your A game out there. Well, we're about to bring our A game too." So I feel like that might be my perception, kind of meeting the reality. But I love that he doesn't give a darn about what anybody thinks. He's just going to be out there doing him.
You know what, T? And to be honest with you, T, like that was like my big question for this team. I know pass rush has been an issue for quite some time, but that was my big question coming into this season. Okay, I know that the recovery time for Kirk Cousins was X amount of time, and then now you have it now where he's out there taking snaps and he's out there, doing what he's supposed to do as a quarterback, going through the progressions and everything. And but for me to be able to go out there and get my eyes on it, that's what changes my perception into reality, right? So when there was one particular play where they were in the red zone, they went play action, and nobody was really open, so he kind of rolled out and kind of made a throw on the run. I was like, okay, those are some of the things that I know that builds that confidence to say, hey, I can do this. I know that I'm fully healthy and be able to go out there, because that's what's going to help that mental aspect of it, because right as of right now, he's not going to play in preseason. So it's going to have to be something to continue to build up that confidence, because when Pittsburgh comes in, they're not going to be looking for any like those are the people that's not going to be cheering for him. I promise you
Yeah.
that. So they're going to be trying to look into to get some action and get it done. But I think overall, Kirk is in a good place, and I feel like the reality of it that he's looking and putting on the field that he's healthy, because you can say what you want to say, but people can get out there and get their eyes on you and say, you know what? He does look healthy. He does look like he's moving around well. So, and obviously it's going to be some, from a rehabilitation standpoint, he's going to have to make sure he continues to do that, but you don't have to worry about that with Kirk. So yeah, I think overall, like that perception is a reality for me, because I've been able to kind of see him go out there and do those things. Now, all we got to see now is what you're going to do when those bodies start flying around those legs. And that's going to be the big question. But I feel like he's stacking those days up and building up that confidence to, September 8th.
Yeah. And I think too, one thing with Kirk is, I think what he was trying to get across is that he wants to turn these perceptions into reality. He doesn't want to just talk about how this offense could be great. He wants to go out and show you that. That was really what he was trying to tell everybody. And also what I've learned about Kirk in training camp is he can't keep a secret. Have you guys noticed that?
Yeah. Got diarrhea to mouth.
You said preseason, and I was like, the only reason we know Kirk is not playing in preseason is because he gets up there and he's like, if it were up to me, I would love to play preseason, but it fell on deaf ears. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? He said, Raheem literally told me no.
Yeah.
Right.
Backing me up.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I
Don't
love
tell him
it.
any secrets.
Tell it all. Tell it, Kirko.
Don't tell it all, because unfortunately we know that's how the Falcons lost a couple picks. But
seriously, no, it's refreshing. It's really refreshing to be around.
He is who he is. And that just means we're going to get straight no chases, which, like you said, it's refreshing and definitely something that we can appreciate. Now, I think another thing that is positive for these Falcons to have Kirk Cousins in place is the fact that you have first-time coordinators in Zach Robinson, and of course, Jimmy Lake is first-time coordinator as well on the defensive side of the ball. But it's always good to have that veteran to kind of partner with that sort of newbie in that coordinator space. That said, Raheem Morris has those two coordinators that have, we'll say, more limited experience with play calling and being officially responsible for play calling in the league. So how important is it for them to at least have worked together in LA? And are you starting to see some of those synergies from their previous experience working together start to pay off on either or both sides of the ball?
I mean, that part is really hard to tell on August 1st, for sure. But I will say, I think it's a huge benefit that they were previously coworkers. I mean, that just, it helps. It helps to understand some of the verbiage because, again, everyone, everywhere you go, calls things differently. Things look differently on offense and on defense. So it's just the verbiage aspect that I think is the biggest learning curve, and just how they want to call plays. This is relatively new, as you mentioned, T. They've never been coordinators in the NFL. That is a big learning curve for a lot of people. But to Raheem's credit, though, he has put so many people around both of those guys to where you really shouldn't feel that nervous. I mean, the amount of experience on that coaching staff is immeasurable. And I think he did that because he has first-time coordinators. It was incredibly smart. And especially when you're talking about a quarterback, you get a veteran quarterback, so you don't have to worry about him as much. But then it goes to the offense, and you have a ton of other previous NFL quarterbacks sprinkled in there who can also talk to these receivers, these running backs, and be able to tell them. And Dwayne Ledford just being there again is so valuable for the offensive line. I know I'm talking Jarvis's language now, but seriously, I mean, the amount of experience on this coaching staff, I think, should make everyone feel pretty good about where they are heading into the season. I know first-time coordinators are a little nerve-wracking, but I'm not that nervous just because of everyone else around them.
Yeah. And I think that's a critical component as well. Like, you always think to yourself, okay, how's this going to work out as far as coaches that are retained from, the previous administration? And you give a great example in Dwayne Ledford. I think there are, him being maybe the primary example, having him back, or TJ Yates, having those guys in place, that some of these offensive players and players on the defensive side of the ball as well have familiarity with, have some cohesion or cohesiveness with. I think that's going to be huge for them. And so it kind of takes away some of what might happen in your first year, kind of when you're a newbie in that role. I think it kind of takes away some of the, I don't want to say the jitters, but maybe some of the rookie mistakes, for lack of a better term, that you might make as a first year coordinator.
And you know what, T? I asked Zach Robinson about that, directly, because when you step into a different role, this is different between sitting on the side, not sitting on the sidelines, but like being on that coaching staff and working with the offensive coordinator and being that guy to help come up with game plans versus, hey, I got my quarterback coach who's helping me come up with game plans so I can start calling plays. And Zach was very open about how Sean McVay helped him put him in
Mhm.
situations to where he was actually the play caller,
Yeah.
specifically in the preseason. So he was prepared for it, and just like Raheem Morris surrounded, kept Jared Gray on. We know how huge he is, as
Huge.
far as Maria as well.
Right.
So how he's
Tree
just
too.
been that voice, veteran voice that players just automatically respect once he walks into the room. And Jesse Bates even spoke to it when he first signed with his team. So when you think about it from that aspect of it, like having that experience and working with guys, and Raheem Morris seeing how Sean McVay entrusted, Zach Robinson with doing certain things. And he was like, okay, you know what? Hey man, once I get this opportunity to go get this head coaching job, because I know I'm going to get another chance, I want to bring you along with me. So that's the cool aspect about it. So it's not so much pressure if he hadn't worked with them, or they're having that distrust, if like, I know I like you as a play caller, I like your potential, but it's going to be kind of hit or miss when balls start flying. You don't really have that, because you actually worked with him before, and you kind of understand that he's been in those situations where he was actually calling plays, and you like what you saw then. So hey, I know that he can do it now.
Speaking of second chances, it looks like in maybe this last, say, 5-game stretch, there's a team we might want to give a second chance to, because don't look now, but they might be rounding back into form. We'll talk about it in Around the Metro.